But, the more I think about this list and the books that I've been reading, I'm definitely going to need therapy after this. I'm so going to need therapy after reading this long list. But everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today is the start of a new week, and we are starting the next 3 books of the Women's Prize for Fiction. This week I have 2 audios and 1 with my eyeballs, and I am starting that one today. Currently I'm on Sprint, so I've just come in here to do a little bit of a chit chat, and basically this one is called The 8 Lives of a Century-Old Trickster. It seems like each chapter is going to be like a little bit of a story, this life story of Mrs. Mook. So basically we've got a person that is an obituist, and they are taking down all the details of the person's life and whatnot, and they're at the Golden Sunset Retirement Home. I just wanted to get that right. So it's not unusual for residents to make up stories and all that sort of stuff. There's Alzheimer patients there and all that sort of stuff. So but the obituist is trying to get all their information down so they have something to look forward to and telling their stories of their life, mainly for their loved ones, as well as for themselves as well. So basically the obituist has gone into Mrs. Mook's room, and Mrs. Mook begins to unspill her life, and the obituist listening is very skeptical of what's happening. There's stories of captivity, friendship, murder, assumed identities, and spying. A life that moves from World War II from World War II Indonesia to Busan during the Korean War, and then into China. So it looks like we're on for a bit of a colourful and adventurous trip with this book. So I'm looking forward to reading it, because I have heard bits and pieces of people talking about it, saying that they really like it, and yeah, and there was a little bit of, it shouldn't be on the list because it's a collection of short stories, but I don't think it is. From what I've heard from other friends that have read it, I think it's just this lady each chapter is her life, and she's telling this person all about it. So I'm on Sprints at the moment. I'm starting it today, which is Monday the 25th of March, and I want to get this read all by Wednesday night when I have my next lot of sprints Wednesday afternoon. So I'm going to start it now, get as much as I can read. On Tuesday I won't be able to do much reading because I've got a lot of filming to do, and I use my phone for that. So yeah, so I'm hoping that come Wednesday I'm at least 20%, and then I can do the last 80% of it on Sprints and stay on Sprints until it's done. All right, I'm going to head off. I will check in when I have read about 20-30%. I will check in with you and let you know how I'm feeling about the book, and all the things that go with this vlog. All right, I'm going to head off. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Hi everybody, and welcome back. All right, it's Wednesday afternoon, and I am on Sprints, and basically I am reading 8 Lives of a Century-Old Trickster. I'm at 30% right now. I need to finish this today and get rid of it. Sorry, I have a little kitten that is being very annoying and eating my skirt and my tassels. So yeah. Anyway, this is Voodoo. In case anybody's wondering, this is Voodoo, the newest member of our family. And she is adorable. She's a fun little thing. She likes jumping around and all the rest of it. And I just have to hide my necklace. Yeah, it's hidden because she tries to eat my necklace. But anyway, I digress. This book is not for the faint-hearted. Okay, this has a lot of stuff going on. Now, I don't really know how to talk about this book, so I'm just going to put a warning across the bottom. It's got graphic content, and the only way to talk about this book is by mentioning said graphic content. Okay, there is a lot of rape, there is a lot of violence, domestic violence. There's just a lot going on. So at 30%, I have gone through where we've met her as a young child, because we're at a retirement village, and she is telling the person that writes the obituaries about her life. And so Mrs. Mook is telling her 8 lives, essentially. On the cover of the book, it says slave, escape artist, murderer, terrorist, spy, lover, mother. So we are going through all of these sort of things. through her life. And so we first meet her when she is young, and her father is quite violent and very domestic violent towards her mother, and she is eating dirt. So she takes a little bit of dirt about the size of her fingernail, and she eats it from her hometown. And I believe this is a stress, like as I've gone further into the book, I feel like this was something that she was doing because she was under a lot of stress, because her father used to beat her, and also her mother. And then, yeah, and so that's how we're sort of introduced to her, and it goes on about that story. And then we move on a little bit further in the story, and she is learning English. She's being taught by a Canadian pastor, and her mother is also teaching English and all that sort of stuff. And then there's an English word that is written, which is sex, which was written in big black letters underneath the bridge. And her husband knew that the mother had wrote it. Well, he accused her, but anyway. And then he proceeded to beat the hell out of her until she lost an eye. It is quite graphic in how it describes that scene. Very, very harsh in the way it describes it. And this is set in Korea at this stage, and then between North and South. She ends up, I can't remember where she ended up, but she ended up, after this all happened, she ended up somewhere else. Someone was taken during the night and they were raped, and that's when she decided to be a boy. So she dressed as a boy. She had short hair anyway. She strapped her boobs so you couldn't see them. And then she tried to, and then she got herself a job as a translator because she could speak really good English. And she was taken to this place where I assumed that the women were being treated very poorly, raped, and all that sort of stuff. This is all around the wars and what happened during the war and stuff. And she was to translate English to Korean and then Korean to English for the people there. And they were shooting them up with like opium and all this other stuff as well. And just the way that the author describes things that were going on and all that sort of stuff. And then it moves from there to Indonesia around the Second World War, because it jumps around. Like it's not in chronological order. It jumps around a bit. So we're in, I think, 1942, if my memory serves me correctly, where the Japanese have rounded up the women and they've taken them to Indonesia. And while they're in Indonesia, the Japanese soldiers are just using them so horrifically that they have all sorts of things happening down between their legs. They're black and blue, they're rubbed raw, and then to compensate for that, they just keep putting opium into them, like shooting them up with opium. Like, this is so graphic, it's sickening. But I am going to try and finish it. I'm at 30% right now. I'm hoping in the next 2 sprints I'll get to another 30%, and then I can just finish the book out. I'm staying on sprints until it's done. Because I cannot go into tomorrow with this book hanging over my head. I do not recommend this book to anybody that is a faint-hearted. I mean, it's I like the writing style. This is a debut novel too, so, and I like the writing style. Like the writing's really good. I'm engrossed in that. It's very descriptive. It pulls you into the story, where you start, like, I have been like flinching and like just jaw dropping, and I can read some heavy stuff, like, but this is, and what I think is making it worse is that this is actually, like, even worse now that I've been told that this is actually the author has taken taken facts from true stories from around the war and stuff like that, so, and then made this fictionalized story. So that makes it even worse. Like, I know that the Japanese back in World War II did some pretty horrific things. Like, I've heard stories and stuff like that, and, you know, seen documentaries and everything. And back in the war, they were, the torture that they did to people was very cruel and unusual and whatnot. But, yeah, this is just, like, this is all centered around women, and it's just so horrific. And so, like, I was saying on sprints, I think I'm going to need therapy after reading this long list. Like, it's just, whoa. And, you know, some really heavy content and really dark content as well. And I'm like, what was going on in the past year that the authors felt that they need to write about this stuff? Like, surely there could have been some other books that were a lot better, like, yeah, I know it's not supposed to be a mainstream list. I know that the books on this list aren't for everybody. And don't get me wrong, I do enjoy reading them, but when it's like, I'd even have to go as far as to say that this is probably even, it's up there with A Little Life. That, and Paul Coda's reading A Little Life simultaneously as I'm reading this. So it's been a trauma-filled sprint this Wednesday, but I'm going to get on with it because I've already used 5 minutes to peel the potatoes, and I've now used another 7 minutes of my reading time for talking about this. And I have a little cutie kitten just laying down, getting scratches under her chin on my lap. So I'm going to get back into reading. And yeah, hopefully I can knock this over sooner rather than later. It is reading pretty quick, so that's the main thing. But just be warned, if you pick this up, we were talking about it on Sprints. Some people have said it's like comical. This is not comical. This is trauma to the highest. Like, this is just, whoa. Yeah, just whoa is all I can say. Just whoa. It's gonna be a rough ride. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. All right, so today I'm here to give you my wrap up for my bedroom door. I got a little kitty cat, so I've got to shut the door because otherwise it gets in there and gets on all the stuff. All right, so today I'm going to talk about the 8 Lives of a Century-Old Trickster just before I start Sprint. So it's about 8 o'clock in the morning on Friday morning. I'm about to celebrate my 2nd year on Booktube, which is exciting. So I should have some friends popping in and out. Unfortunately, I didn't realize it was happening. Let me just pop this down. I didn't realize it was happening, and so I sent the invitation out a bit too late. But anyway, some friends will pop in and out, no doubt. But anyway, that's beside the point. All right. So, wow, all I can say, as you would know, it was a bit of a wild ride. If you were on Sprints on Wednesday, you know that it was a bit of a wild ride. And I managed to get all the book finished on those Sprints, which was absolutely fabulous, which meant that I didn't have to take it into Thursday. So, yeah, just fix this camera up a little bit wonky. Okay, that's a bit better. All right, so I really, as you would have heard in the last clip, there's some pretty graphic content in this, and it was a hard slog. Like, it really was. I struggled big time with it, and I don't normally struggle with books. Like, the story was great, the writing was good. I enjoyed the storytellers, and I believe this is a debut novel, so it's pretty full on for a debut novel. As I said I'm just bringing up all the information now. As I said in the other clip, it had really explicit and graphic content. I think what got me the most was the descriptions of it. In one aspect, one part of the book rather, I was reading along, and she was talking about when they were taken to Indonesia as comfort girls. This was probably the chapters before this were pretty full on, but this one was probably the most visceral reaction that I got from this. Like, it actually made me feel physically ill and cringe. Now, I'm not saying that everybody will get that reaction. It's just because I do know a little bit about the cruel and unusual things that the Japanese soldiers did in World War II, through my grandfather and all that sort of stuff, you know, and history and like things that I've watched on the internet and stuff like that. So this one, because it was so close to being factual, that it made me feel really sick. And so basically in this aspect, there was a group of women that were rounded up, and they were called comfort girls, and they were taken to this place. I think they called it the station, because there was two places that she talked about in this book that were very similar in a way. So basically, she describes the sounds that she was hearing, the guttural sounds, and realizing she didn't realize humans could make those sounds from being tortured and being repeatedly raped and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, so it was pretty full on. Just like things like sentences and paragraphs that were put together, like where they were repeatedly raped. They were raped that badly that on a continuous basis, where she was describing that on any given day,
She could see up to 50 soldiers would come and see her, and on weekends that could sometimes be doubled. And so to keep them going, even though they were red raw down there, they had blisters, they were black and blue, they were bleeding from the rear end, like these women were just like used as sex slaves essentially, and they just kept pumping them full of opium. Now I honestly don't know like how to react to that, but I was like, I had to keep stopping, like but I powered through, because the deal is that I have to read these books to the end. Had I just picked this book up to read, which I probably would have from the cover, as you can see there, it looks like a very sedate cover, you know, like it's got a very intriguing title that a lot of people would pick this up. And this is why I'm going into detail, because I know a lot of you out there would not want to read this. Now, that was the first half of the book. The second half of the book was a little bit more sedate. After she took us on that roller coaster ride, yeah, we needed it to be a little bit more sedate. There was still some stuff in there that wasn't great and all that sort of stuff, but it did calm down somewhat, and my anxiety levels went down as well. This was actually, like, even just talking about it now, my gut, it feels awful. Like, I feel like I'm very anxious, like someone's about to jump out and grab me or something like that, and I don't get spooked very easy. So this one is, this review is for all those out there that do not like this sort of content. Do not be fooled by this cover. It is a very, very detailed, not that's probably the wrong way to describe it. It is very, very graphic, is what I will say. Even down to the point where babies were taken and forced sterilization, like actual whole wombs were taken as well, in these incidences and whatnot. Now, yeah. So that is the content side of it. As far as writing goes, and I think her name is Miriani Lee, I think is how you, or Mirinay. I don't know how to say her name, but you can see the author's name there. I'm not too sure how to say it. Now, as far as a writer goes, it's beautiful writing. I absolutely loved her writing style, and I don't usually judge a book on its writing, but I have to in this case because the content was so graphic. I adored her writing. I loved how like, content aside, the descriptions were great. Like, she really drew you into the story. There is no denying that this author is a great storyteller, and I'm looking forward to see what I'm scared, and I'm going to go in with trepidation, but I am pretty keen to see where she goes as an author, because her writing style, I love it. Her descriptions of the places that she was in, I felt like I was there. There was a lot of reasons why I'm going to give it the star rating that I'm going to give it. The book wasn't overly long, so she didn't drag it out. Like, she didn't make it unnecessarily descriptive and unnecessarily kept you in that moment in her life. So yeah, the author did a fantastic job on that aspect. So this is where my rating is going to come in, because I'm not going to talk any more about this. And I actually agree with the story graph, the little blurb that they have there. Readers who enjoy thought-provoking narratives about complex characters navigating historical events and personal struggles will find The 8 Lives of a Century-Old Trickster by the author captivating. It was very captivating. This book actually kept me engaged, so much so that I read nearly 220 pages, I think it was, 240 pages on sprints, and managed to get through it. Even with putting it down a little bit and all the rest of it. So I've actually given it, with content aside, everything else about this author, her writing, her storytelling, and all that sort of stuff, I've actually given this a 3.5. It is a little bit lower because of the graphic content, so take that for what you will. If you like horror and body horror and all that sort of stuff, you will definitely, like, because it's horrific what I'm reading. Even though it doesn't fall under the horror genre, I really think it should. And it's very dark and mysterious and emotional. And how the story wrapped up as well also kept didn't take away from it either. So I just think that this author is going to go a long way, and I'm looking forward to reading more from her. So so take that review, because I said what I gave it to Neva, and Neva goes, I can't believe you gave it 3.5 stars. But they're my reasons why I gave it 3.5 stars. And there are people out there that will actually enjoy this. I'm just going to head over to Goodreads and see what the rating on Goodreads is, because I don't know if I did that during the time that I was reading this. So this has had 878 reviews on Goodreads, and it's got a 3.97 rating. So I'm pretty close to what I think it should be. And I'm just having a look, and most people, the 177 people gave it 3 stars. 404 have given it 4 stars. Yeah. So we pretty much know what it was about and all that sort of stuff. I just felt like this one I had to talk about the graphic content, because I think a lot of people, like, there are a couple of different covers. Let me just on Goodreads, like there's one where there looks to be the back of an Asian woman. It is written, I think that's in Spanish maybe. That looks like to be, she's facing away from the camera. It's a maroon, and I'll put it up so you can see it. You know, like, it looks very sedate. And even the one that the paperback with the colourful, you can see that here, that even looks a little bit, you know, like it's going to be a nice book to read, like a nice historical fiction. No, you are going to be, if you do read it, you will be on a very, 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 very long roller coaster ride. It also has tags on Goodreads of fantasy and magic realism. I don't think there was any magical realism in there. And fantasy, maybe, if you're looking at it from the point of view that that the person that's telling the girl that's taking the obituary, the story, then, and it might be fanciful then, but it turns out that without giving too much away, for those that want to read it, it turns out that it's not fantasy. So yeah, but I'm just going to leave it at that. 3.5 stars. It was a roller coaster ride, and that's all. I really want to talk about it for that one. All right, I am here to talk about Soldier Sailor. It is the next book that I'm about to start. This book is only very short. This one only has 233 pages. I'm listening to it on audio. It is about a 3.5 hour book at the speed that I listen to, which is about 2.10 on this one, because the narrator is a little bit slower at reading. This one I'm not 100% sure about. I have heard a couple of people talk about it and say how much they enjoyed it, and it's a really good close look at motherhood, especially new motherhood, and how we feel after we have a baby and stuff like that, and how we sort of lose ourselves. So that's sort of the gist of the book. I've just brought up Storygraph. This book is, as I said, called Soldier Sailor, and it is by Claire Kilroy. Now, I believe Claire Kilroy is an Irish author, but don't quote me on that, because I'm probably totally wrong. I often get my authors mixed up and where they're from and whatnot. So this one was published in 2023. I don't know the actual month that it was published. It doesn't actually have that on Storygraph. That's usually a Goodreads thing. But it... I might just actually bring up Goodreads so we can see what we have in the way of a rating and everything on that as well. I have been doing that this year, just looking at what it is on Goodreads to find out if I'm going to have a great read or not. It was May 2023 that it was published, and it actually has nearly 2,000 ratings on this book, and basically it's had 304 written reviews on it as well. It is rated at 4.18 on Goodreads, so that's not a bad rating at all. I mean, obviously that'll go up the more people, or go down the more people that review it and all the rest of it. So yesterday I read the 8 Lives of a Century-Old Trickster, and that was a bit of a rough ride, as you would have seen in the clip. So I sort of took the morning off and the afternoon off, and it's now just after 6 o'clock. I've settled in to do some diamond painting, and I'm going to get get stuck into this book. And I'm a little bit scared because my lovely friend Chris on Sprints basically did not have a great time with this book. So I'm a little bit worried that I'm not going to have a great time with this book as well. But as I said, I've sort of taken the day off and gave myself a rest from reading. I haven't read anything until about to pick this book up. As I said, it is on audio. So I'm just going to read what it, sorry, a bug. I'm just going to read what it says on Storygraph. So Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy is a good fit for readers seeking a nuanced exploration of the emotional and psychological challenges of new motherhood, including the experience of isolation and the impact that it can have on your mental health. So yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a pretty heavy read. And this is her first novel in over a decade from Claire Kilroy. So I have not read anything else of hers. So I can't say what sort of writer she is or anything like that. And it's a little bit hard sometimes because I listen to the audiobooks. It's hard to really navigate what her writing style is like and whatnot. So I'm going to get stuck into that, and I'll check in at about the halfway point and let you know how I'm going. All right, so I'm here to do the wrap up for Soldier Sailor. Now, I only done the intro for this, and now I have finished it. It was a very short book. It was only a little over 200 pages, about 3.5 hours in the audio. I listened to this on the audio. I did have it on Everand, and as I was listening to it, I think I got into 2 chapters, then it disappeared. So I've never had that happen before on Everand, and then when I tried to search it back up again, it was saying it was not available in your country. So there. So I ended up going and getting it over on Audible because I was already part the way through, couldn't find it anywhere else. Libby didn't have it. My library didn't have it. I searched every high and low, and I ended up getting the audio because I would have just got the Kindle if the Kindle hadn't have been $22. It was, the Kindle was actually the same price. I think the paperback was $1 dearer. So I thought, well, audio it is. So I ended up buying it on Audible, and I do save up money for this vlog because I know that a lot of the books aren't published here and stuff like that. Like I think there's one book that you get on the non-fiction long list that you can't even get on the Women's Prize long list for non-fiction. You can't even get until June or something, they were saying the other day. So I haven't read any of those. The short list has just been announced, and I'll probably take a little bit of a closer look at those. There's a couple I did see the short list, and I did see that there was a couple that I was interested in reading, or I am interested in reading, so I'll probably pick them up. Non-fiction, I tend to want to have a physical copy because I do like to take notes and stuff like that, and I'm probably, with a lot of my non-fiction going forward, will be annotating those and just, you know, taking notes and slipping the notes in there, or not necessarily annotating, but just taking notes and slipping that piece of paper in the book, like typing them up and slipping them in, if that makes sense. But yeah, anyway, I digress. So I'm here to talk about Soldier Sailor. I've still got one more book, and it is Friday morning. I've still got one more book to read, so this vlog is going to be obviously late this week. But Soldier Sailor, what can I say about that? It seemed like it was going to be an okay story. It is, I'll rephrase that, okay? It is an okay story. So from my understanding, let me just bring this up because I just had it up here before. Okay, so Soldier Sailor is a fiction. It's set in Ireland. It's Irish literature, which we all know that I have issues with. It's by Claire Kilroy, and it has a 4.18 rating. It's been rated nearly 1,968 times. It was published back in May, which I think I've said all this in the previous clip anyway. I don't watch my clips back, so you get repeats sometimes. Anyway, I started reading this and I was doing some diamond painting, so I was very focused in the story and all that sort of stuff. So for anybody that struggles with audiobook, not doing anything, just do some diamond painting, or just something that's very repetitive that you don't have to really think about. That's where I sort of get my that's what I do when I do that sort of stuff. So basically, as I said in the last clip, what it was about and everything, this book was very this actually hit home in a lot of ways. Like, I've heard a lot of people, and my friend Chris also didn't really like this book either, but I wouldn't say that I liked the book, but I was intrigued by the book, by the feelings that I was getting, and the flashbacks to new motherhood that I was getting from this. Now, I've never read anything from Claire Kilroy before, and this was another one where her storytelling and the way this is told, it's almost it's like her inner dialogue, like she's talking to her son, and it's her inner dialogue, and she's going through her life. Now, I got the feeling towards the end that she was reflecting on maybe her life not being as long as she thought it was going to be, but that could have been my own confusion there. That's just the sort of feeling I got. But overall, the story was an inner dialogue, I felt. That's how it came across to me. Maybe because it was in my ear, I don't know. Not having the books in front of me, it makes it really hard sometimes to distinguish between the styles of writing and stuff like that. And mainly because I don't really focus on the writing and whatnot. So I'm listening away, and this was a very, very interesting book in the way that it pulled me into the story. I felt like I was there. There were moments where I didn't even realize I was tearing up, and I was crying because is it crying unless it's ugly crying? I was tearing up, and I had a couple of tears escape my eyes, let's say. And basically, because I felt like I was there with her and feeling her frustrations and feeling her loss of identity and feeling like not being good enough, and being judged by people, and the fact that like, for a lot of people don't realize that I spent especially with Neroli, a lot of these feelings sort of popped up. Not that I hated my husband, I'll just put that out there, but I did have some feelings of resentment towards him because he got to leave the house. He got to go and be with normal people. Like, and anybody that's had or has looked after a baby, that's, foster parents, carers, all that sort of stuff, that sometimes trying to get out the door is near on an impossibility, and you just give up. And all I can say was, where was home delivery and DoorDash and all the things that happen in this day and age that weren't happening 17 years ago? I would have been a lot happy person. My husband worked away, so he worked away for very long periods of time, up to 6 weeks at a time. So it was me with the kids, and I had more than one kid. This woman only had one kid. So I was getting pulled into this story, and just the resentment and the disdain that she had towards her husband because he got to continue on with his life and she didn't, and she felt like that she had lost her identity, and she was struggling. And like, little humans, especially if they're stubborn little humans, they can cause quite a lot of angst between each other. But for all the things that she was going through, like postnatal depression as well, so there was a bit of that in there. And for all the things that this woman described, at one time or another in my life of my 4 children, I have felt these feelings. And also how, we just suck it up and we get on with it. There is no sick days for mothers. And I'm not complaining about motherhood or anything, but this woman, this Claire Kilroy, managed to write such a story, again, that just pulled me in. Now, it's not an easy story to listen to. It does feel like it's a typical Irish literature. I feel like I get a little bit frustrated with it. There's no infidelity in this one. And whatnot. I thought that there was going to be at one stage, but there wasn't. So basically, and that sort of side of the story, actually, now I think about it, that side of the story was a little bit incomplete in some ways. But at the end of the story, I was thinking, did she imagine that person? There is also, thoughts of, a bit leaving her baby. There is a scene at the beginning of the book where she's saying, I left you once. But I came back. And so this was where she was so desperate, so out of her comfort zone, and so low with her depression and everything like that, that she was just going to leave and never come back. And a chain of events happened and that wasn't the case. So yeah, and it's just also the disconnect that she felt with her husband and everything and whatnot. But you know, the more I think about this list and the books that I've been reading, I'm definitely going to need therapy after this. I'm so going to need therapy after reading this long list. But so anyway, you're wondering what I have given this book. I've actually given it a 4-star rating. And that is because of the emotion and the thoughts and all the realizations. Like, in a way, this was like, oh my God, I was normal. Like, and for all the times that I thought I was batshit crazy or whatever, and that I wasn't normal, it seems like it was a normal thing to go through, because I don't have someone that I can talk to about it except for friends and all that sort of stuff. And she does mention where everybody that she, you know, people judging a kid and all that sort of stuff, and you just feel very judged. That's a new mum. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. A lot of people probably won't agree with that. And let me just have a look and see. Like, it's got a 4.18 star rating. So I'm guessing a lot of people have given this 8 out of the 2,000 out of the 1,968 people, 837 people, 42% have given this 5 stars, and 38% have given it 4 stars. So I am in that, which I can now rate that. So I'll do that while I'm sitting here. That just went up. So yeah, so basically I am really happy with that. Now, I am going to leave it at that because I'm about to start sprints. I will do a check-in with the next book that I'm reading, and I have no idea what that. I think it's Night Bloom that I'm reading next. I have that on audio, so I'm going to be listening to that today after I read my Harry Potter bits and pieces. But yeah, anyway, the next book that I'm reading, and I am going to be doing my introduction, my check-in, and my wrap-up all in one hit, because I don't know, reading me thought that I had already talked about this book, and I actually hadn't. So the book that I'm talking about is Night Bloom. And we knew that this was going to happen sooner or later, because, you know, you get stuck into these lists and you get stuck into reading and you think you've done the things and you haven't done the things. So anyway, I have got all the information pulled up here. The book is called Night Bloom, and you can see from the cover there, it's by Peace Adzo Medi, I think is how you pronounce it, or Medai, maybe, is how you pronounce it. So I have never read anything by this author before. However, I do believe that they have other books out as well. So there have been 1,137 ratings on Goodreads. It comes in at a 3.97 rating, star rating. 190 people have given reviews, and out of those reviews, we have 28% is at 5 star and 44% is at 4 stars, and then 22% is at 3 stars. So it's rating pretty high with most people. Most people are enjoying it. Now, I did listen to this on audio. I did have the Kindle through, the ebook rather, through Everend, but I didn't end up using that. So I just listened to this and done a little bit of diamond painting. So this is following the story of 2 young girls. We first meet them when they're born in 1985, and then they grow up together in Ghana. And basically we've got Korafa and Celsey, I think Celsey is how you pronounce her name. As I said, they are cousins. They are inseparable. They're always together. They play together and all that sort of stuff. And then basically a tragedy happens, and then their lives are taken in different directions. And basically this book is set out where you've got Korafa's point of view, and then the second part of the book is the other cousin, Silasi, I think is how you pronounce the name, Silasi, if I remember correctly. Probably not, but I'm pretty sure that it sounds like that. As I said, this is set in Ghana, and we've got Akafa's family. Her mother is, again, the themes in this are, you know, girls and their mothers and stuff like that. But her mother is always pushing her to be her best, strive to be this. She wants her to be a doctor. She wants her to study abroad, get a scholarship, all this sort of stuff. But her extended family don't really like her, and that sort of comes into play. The cousin is always there, and basically they play together, they do all the things together, and then one day Selassie's mum passes away unexpected, and it's sort of a little bit of a snapshot look at the medical, or the lack of medical assistance for people in Ghana. And she died unexpectedly, and so she ends up going and then she's left her father, who doesn't want to raise her or anything like that. And both mothers are pushing their kids. Now, Selassie doesn't have a good academic standing. She struggles with everything, where Akafa, she is a lot more apt at embracing work and striving for it, getting good marks and all that sort of stuff. And so we start to see a little bit of a divide between them as the story goes along, as they go into school and all that sort of stuff. After Selassie's mum dies, she ends up living with her cousin, and then it becomes even more apparent that Akafa's mum is not a great person, a little bit of a narcissist in a way, and just makes stuff up. And so basically we get the point of view from Akafora. She basically is striving at school, making friends, and just moving further and further away from her cousin. Her cousin becomes a little bit despondent, but we find out why later on, why she became that way and why she started moving away, because we learn more about Akafa's mother and how bad she actually was, and how she skewed everything to get her own way and all of that sort of stuff. We also look at how people turn their, because there is sexual abuse in this to both parties, and basically we learn how people just sweep things under the rug, and who have known about it but never done anything about it, and then the ramifications and the fallout and all of the things that go with that. So I'll just give you the little bit of the blurb from Storygraph, as I have been doing in the past. And let me just bring this up because it's one of the last books that I've read. So the little description that they have on Storygraph is: Night Bloom is a great fit for readers seeking a heartfelt exploration of enduring power of female friendship and the complexities of family dynamics and the challenge faced by immigrants set against a backdrop of Ghanaian and American societies. So basically, Akafa ends up in America, and through her own journey, we see what she goes through and all the things, and what, almost to the point of her disappointment of the American dream. So there's a little bit of that theme in there as well, that she was disappointed, and the fear, the constant fear that she, in a way, put herself in. Like, she experienced some racism, and then she became like hyper alert to racism, and then did everything in her power to avoid racism, if that makes any sense. So one of her friends was quite racist towards her, and that shocked the hell out of her, because in her mind, if she just fit in and just did what she was supposed to do, and for lack of a better term, just be a good girl and just, toe the party line, so to speak, that she would never experience that again. But sadly, that's not the case. And so we go on with her on her journey, and how she's put herself into almost a state of fear, constant fear, but rightly so, because the stuff is actually happening. And but yeah, and just how she deals with it as well, and whether right or wrong in how she deals with it, and then being called out for it later on, that you always did this, that and the other, and this is why I reacted this way to you. So it's a bit of that going backwards and forwards. There were a couple of, as I said, there was some sexual assault in this towards the girls as well, so be aware that is in there. And also the struggle that because we don't have that struggle with Selassie. She doesn't have a mum in the scene, but she has that struggle with Akafa's mum, who she thought as a mother, and just how two-faced she was, and how she ended up going to the extended family and basically finding shelter with them and love with them and all the things with them, but how Akafa's mum was judging her, and subsequently Akafa was also judging her and that. So basically we have that huge divide, and then they come back in together, and then they work towards, you know, reconciliation, so to speak. It was a fabulous story. Like, I actually loved the fact that they were really close friends, and, you know, we had all these other dynamics coming into it, and seeing how the friendship changed over time, and how they went their separate ways, and they've come back together, and they're trying to work it out and all that sort of stuff. So on that aspect, I really enjoyed the story. I know it's probably not everybody's cup of tea, but I actually really liked it. I didn't have really any complaints. I've actually rated this one pretty high. Again, it is going along with the theme of this year's, rightly or wrongly, it is all about motherhood and the struggles and family dynamics, and there's violence and all the things that you can think of in this list. But I do, I do appreciate the books that I am reading, and I absolutely love this one. So in the end, I ended up giving this story a 3.75 rating. It's really close to a 4-star. I loved the storytelling. The only thing that really dropped it down from a 4-star for me, because I listened to the audiobook on this one, was the narration changed. So we had one narrator for Akafa's part, then we had another narrator for Celeste's part, which was fine. But then we got another narrator. So we had actually 3. And let me just bring this up and let's see if I can find it. Just bear with me for a moment. Okay, so we have, oh, well, I'm not even going to try and say the last names, but we do have 3. All the last names are pretty hard to say, so I'm not even going to try. But there are 3 narrators, and very, very different narrators as well. So just be aware of that. And it was a little bit jarring for me as well, because I wasn't expecting the third one. The second one I got used, like it happened, and I got, like, I was a little bit, oh my God, we've changed narrators, but that's okay because it's from a different point of view. So I was fine with that. And it was sitting at a 4-star until the third narrator came in, and then I went, you know what, this is just too many narrators in this. I mean, they all did a fabulous job, like in their sections that they did, except for the last one. I wasn't really fussed on the last part of it, and which took away from the story as well. So, as I said, I have given it a 3.75, but that is this week's wrap up. They are all the books that I have done. It has been a pretty rough week with all the things that have been happening. I mean, 8 Lives of a Trickster, A Century Old Trickster, was pretty horrific in content and all that sort of stuff. But I have knocked off another 3. I will be next week moving into the next lot of books, so I'm super excited about that, which means I'm getting closer to the end. I am actually enjoying my time reading this list. I absolutely love it. Even though these books are setting me on a roller coaster of emotions and all that sort of stuff, I'm still enjoying myself because they're books that I wouldn't otherwise read, but at least I can say that I've read them. And I feel like I'm, you know, being able to talk to you about them. Some of you can enter into the conversation with me. If you've read them, tell me what you thought. Of course, just don't forget to leave that down below, because that's where we can converse about it. And while you're there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because it doesn't cost you anything to do that. And that's going to help me get to my goal for April of 1,000 subscribers. And also, while you're there, hit that little like button as well, because that'll help me get seen. But as I said, that is it from me today. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And as always, keep turning those pages, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.